Hey there, what is up, my friend? Welcome into Drummer Daily. Once again, my name is Daniel, and I'm so happy that you have decided to join me to talk all about drums and being a drummer and becoming a professional drummer, especially. That's what we talk about here. The things you need to do to make that happen. So my plan for today is we're going to do a little bit of a two-parter here because the way things, I know my own tendency is to kind of go off on tangents sometimes, and I already thought through what I wanted to talk about today, and I'm like, man, this is going to end up stretching on for too long. So I'm gonna break this up into two episodes. So just fair warning, but I think it's something important that needs to be shared. And so I want to talk to you about it. And some of this stuff is stuff that I've talked about before, but then there's pieces of it that I think you're going to find really interesting that I actually haven't thought of before. And so I want to ask you, like, first, and this is kind of what I want to talk about. Have you ever really wanted something? And of course, in my context, I'm talking about being a professional drummer or a certain gig that I wanted. But this could be anything. This could be, a toy if you were a kid, or you wanted to go see a movie maybe, or something like that. You really wanted something though, and then you couldn't for whatever reason. You didn't get to go. You didn't get that toy. It didn't work out for whatever reason. And then, like, somewhere down the road, you find out something about that thing that made you really glad that you didn't get that thing that you thought you wanted. Well, that's kind of what I want to talk to you about today. But along those lines, I'm going to share some pieces of my story that maybe you've heard before. So I do want to talk about the first, big gig that I got. And I've shared parts of this story before, like I mentioned. But when I finally got the audition for the artist that hired me, that at the time made me feel like I had made it, there were, including myself, I believe there were 12 drummers who auditioned all in one day. And so the other musicians who were there, the rest of the band who had already been hired, because they just needed a drummer, they were having drummer auditions basically. They had to sit there for, I think each audition was 30 minutes long. So, that's 6 hours of playing with, I'm sure, a lunch break in the middle or something. But, they've been sitting and listening to a lot of guys coming in and playing drums and trying to figure out the differences and stuff. And I'm sure it was mind melting of a task to do that. So I came in and did that. And I, of course, ended up getting the gig. And a long time after that gig, and after I got the gig, and now that I'm saying this, I think I might have not even found this out until after I got fired from that gig, a while later. But I found out that when the auditions happened, it had actually come down to me and one other drummer, and they thought we were equally as equipped to play the music and would have both been fine playing the music. But the difference maker and the reason why I got the gig and not the other guy was simply that I happened to know the live arrangement of a song that we had to audition with, as opposed to the recorded arrangement that everybody else had learned. And this was in the early days of YouTube and things like that. And so I'd gotten my hands on, I'd found some really poor quality live performances of this song on YouTube, and noted that it was different than the recorded version. So I actually came in and learned the version from the record. I was prepared with that, and I was prepared for the version that was from the way that the rest of the band had been performing it for a long time, maybe even a year. I don't know how long they've been playing this song. And so when the time came to play that song, I said, hey, do you want to do the live version or do you want to do the recorded version? They're like, oh, the live version? I was like, yeah. And they're like, let's do that. And they were so relieved, I think, just to have it. I think I was close to the end of the day. So they had already been playing this song 10 times or something. They were just happy to have somebody play it in a way that was comfortable to them. And so that was the difference maker for me. And what's funny is I actually, years down the road, this is long after this gig was over, this is more recent years, I met or got to know a few of the other drummers who I would come to find out had actually auditioned for that gig and obviously didn't get it when I did get it. And I know for a fact that they are way better all around drummers than I am. And they were at the time that we all had our auditions. So I think a lot of, and so the point is, the difference between me and them was I had driven so hard in one direction, musically speaking, and it was the direction of that gig that I ended up getting. I went all out being the best drummer that I could for that kind of music. And I always had. That was always kind of like the kind of music, generally speaking. It was kind of pop music. Always kind of liked pop music, so I kind of understood some of the core principles and elements and arrangement things that happen a lot. I'd already liked that kind of music, but so I naturally had like been driving straight towards that kind of music pretty much all of my kind of development as a drummer. Wasn't so good at other styles of drummer. I wasn't the best like funk drummer or jazz drummer or anything like that. It definitely wasn't that. And there were other guys who technically were so much better than me in so many other ways. And if you were to look at someone objectively and say, is that guy a better drummer or is Daniel a better drummer? You would have picked somebody else pretty much every time. Everyone would have picked somebody else. But I was uniquely equipped for that gig and uniquely equipped myself for that gig. And then also prepared more than anybody else did for that audition. And that's what got me the gig. And so I just want to remind you that you don't have to be the best drummer in the world at everything to have a career as a drummer or be in demand as just a bandmate or whatever it is that you want to do. But you do need to be as good as you can be at the thing that you actually want to do. So for me, for example, that doesn't just apply to my playing, which of course it does. For me, it was playing pop music at the time. I wanted to be the best pop drummer I could, but specifically, what I wanted to do was not just play pop music. I wanted to get paid to be a professional drummer in a pop music setting. And so I didn't just need to be a good drummer to do that. I needed to be good at other things that would make that happen. Some of the other things that would make that happen would be personable, practice with a click track, which I think that applies for almost everything except for maybe jazz and some other, I don't know, prog rock or something, I don't know. And be prepared, extremely prepared. And some types of music, being prepared is actually a detriment. Like I mentioned, there's improv and stuff. You don't want to come in with a bunch of stuff that you know you're going to play and you have to play it, and then it doesn't fit the music. So sometimes being prepared can be a detriment. And then of course I need to know my own value as far as what pay I was willing to work for. I needed to know how to perform on stage. There's a difference in performing on stage in a club of 50 people versus playing in an arena of 10,000 people. You have to move differently because, as my old drumline instructor used to say, she'd say, people can't see it, they can't hear it. And so you have to be able to perform that way. And the audition was the time to show people that you could perform that way as well. So there was all these other things that I had to be good at in order to make the scenario that I wanted to have happen. But I didn't need to be the best drummer at everything. I need to be the best drummer for those 16 songs I had to learn. And then everything else, didn't really matter because it wasn't going to come up. Honestly, if I could have been a robot that was programmed to perform those 16 songs perfectly, and nothing else, no one in the band would have cared because we weren't playing other stuff. We were just playing those songs. So you just need to be good at the thing you want to do. And so that's what I want to share with you today is you don't have to be the best drummer at everything, but you do need to work towards being the best equipped for the thing you want to do. Now, what I want to share with you in the next episode is going to be all about a gig before this that I thought that I wanted really bad and got all my hopes up. I was so excited about it that I used to literally, the summer that it came up, I used to I would stand for literally sometimes hours and just daydream about having that gig. And it didn't work out. And I was so glad that it didn't work out after I ended up meeting somebody who did get the gig. So I'll share that story with you on the next episode here of Drummer Daily. But thanks for joining me for now. If you have any questions or requests for topics you'd like to have covered here on the show, just send me an email, daniel@danielhadaway.com, and it's spelled just like it sounds, had a way. Or you can just go to danielhadaway.com, and I believe there's a contact form on there. That'll get to me as well. Either way, I'm just happy that you joined me. Love to hear from you, and we'll talk again next time where we share that crazy story with you here on Drummer Daily. Bye for now.